Hello everyone, I'm Jeremy Holliday and I'm head coach of the Rock Creek Junior High boys basketball team. This is my first year as head coach and I've been the assistant the last 5 years. And so we also have Logan Miner on staff and Cooper Schlochtermeyer, so both Rock Creek grads and guys who played basketball for Coach Johnson at the high school level. So we're super excited to add them to staff here. So we'll go ahead and start talking about handbook items. So we'll begin with grades. We're looking to have no Fs and no missing assignments. And if your son has an F or missing assignments, we're going to focus on those before we focus on ball. We're student athletes, and we're not going to practice until we get that work caught up. So the if players are missing practices, this causes their playing time to be hurt, and if they're missing more practice time, then that's longer that they might not be able to play in a game. So looking at medical paperwork, this looked pretty good, and so I have just a couple players I'm waiting on some items to get turned in still. So the injuries, make sure you're communicating with staff if there's injuries, whether it's small or big. If you go to a doctor and get a note describing some orders or saying that you shouldn't be playing or practicing, then we also need a note for your son to rejoin the team for practice. But just, yeah, make sure we're communicating there with the injuries, and you don't want your son to be playing when he shouldn't be. So attendance, if your son is going to miss any holiday practices, I said this in my email, but please make sure you reach out to us and communicate that. I'd appreciate if it was prior to him missing as opposed to after, just to help me out with planning practice. And excused absences, those are fine, and I get those happen. Make sure if you're going and seeing the doctor for an illness or something that you bring that doctor's note. So if a player's missing practices for any reasons, whether it's grades or just skipping practice, and they'll have some physical conditioning that they need to do to make up that missed time. Headbands, wristbands, sleeves, and etc. I've talked about this with players already, but the tights especially, which are pretty popular, we're not going to wear those unless we've got a medical purpose. At the high school level, this is a policy, and so we're continuing on with that at the middle school level. The socks, make sure we're not wearing multicolored socks. We're sticking with our school colors, black and white. For transportation after games, your son is going to need to be signed out at away games. If your son's going to ride home with someone else, I have to get permission for your son to ride home with someone else through the office. And so I cannot personally give permission unless you reach out to the office first. So please make sure you're communicating that. The social media usage, hopefully this isn't going to be an issue, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, those are not areas for complaining about opponents, officials, teammates, coaches, or playing time. If we catch wind of any of that sort of thing, we'll deal with that kind of on a case-by-case scenario, depending on what the misuse of that social media is. So as far as expectations for coaches, parents, and players, we're a family, and we're going to stick together and stay positive. I believe that when people feel appreciated, it creates a fun environment to be in. So as a team, we're going to make sure we're sticking together and defending the family, and that we're going to not criticize one another. We're going to build each other up and be unselfish basketball players. We're going to acknowledge our teammates' success and be supportive of one another. As parents, you can be helping us out by cheering for all players on the team, not just your son. Sit together in the stands, getting excited for our team, and listening rather than lecturing. Enjoy this experience. It's a fast 5 weeks, and uh, don't look back on this time with any regret. So discipline, we're going to make sure we're being accountable at all times in all things. We're going to make sure we're not arguing with officials and that we're being respectful of equipment. We're going to make sure we're cleaning up after ourselves, and we're hustling and diving on the floor, taking charges, supporting each other, and high-fiving one another as we're coming off the court and sitting on the bench. And we're going to carry ourselves with just a lot of class. So speaking of class, that's going to bring us to dressing up. I know that dressing up looks different for a lot of different people. I've had players in the past who've dressed up in slacks, a nice shirt and a tie, and I've had players who've worn jeans and a collared shirt. My main thing is I am looking for your son to be dressed up different than how they normally come to school. So if they're doing that, I'm going to be happy. So we're going to make sure we're cleaning up after ourselves on the bus, in the locker room, and around the bench and in the stands. You'll see us going to the stands. This is just part of us taking pride in who we are as Rock Creek, and we're going to always leave things better than we found it. So we're going to make sure we're greeting our bus driver by name and giving each other high fives frequently and saying good game and displaying great sportsmanship at all times. So we're going to have a lot of fun this season. We're going to enjoy the time together. We're not going to let drama get in the way, and we're not going to let the final score or record define us, which brings us to one of my big points that's not in the handbook, and that's in my belief of middle school is a time to develop players. And when you are developing players, that's going to benefit the high school program and create a fun 4 years for your son in high school. We're looking to beat teams when we're playing for state championships in high school, not necessarily seeking to win. Life is not all about wins and losses at this junior high level, and so we're not going to let that define us. And I'm a big believer in letting middle schoolers get the chance to experience basketball if they haven't played it before. And when I was doing some research on some players who are famous who didn't start playing till later, I saw names like Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Dennis Rodman, Dirk Nowitzki. So just some high-profile names that you look at, and they didn't start playing till they were in their teens. And I think this is a great time for players to get out and see if they enjoy basketball. As parents, you can have fun by being at our games, being supportive, enjoying the game, and not letting anything interfere with that enjoyment, whether it be a bad call by a ref or your son not getting as many minutes as you think that they might deserve. So as parents, make sure you're communicating with us. Please don't reach out to us about issues on days when we've got a game. We don't want to be having to think about that email while we're preparing for a game. Reach out to us on a different day. Do contact us about your son and ask how they can improve or drills they can be doing at home. We want to talk about your son, not other people's son. We want to talk about your son. Let's focus on the positives and keep this a great conversation. Do encourage your son to be an advocate for himself. This is a time where they're growing up and they're becoming more independent. I want to have conversations with them first and want them to have the chance to communicate respectfully and clearly with me at the right place and at the right time. So encourage that. When it comes to alcohol, drug, tobacco, and vaping use, we'll follow the student handbook, and administration will definitely be involved with that. Managers are subject to all the same standards as players. You can see the contact information there from the coaches. Feel free to reach out to us if you've got things that come up throughout the season. I've attached the schedule for our season, and I'll let you know if there's any changes to that. I've also attached the practice schedule, and the days that say just afternoon, those are days that we have school. So know that it's still 3:30 to 5:30. I just figured that with the practices where we didn't have school, I wanted to make sure that I put the time for you as parents getting your kid to the practice. So last but not least, I want to take a little bit to talk about the tier system that we use at Rock Creek. This has been a system that Coach Trent brought, and I've seen a lot of value from it. I coached 2 seasons, I think, without it, and I I just saw a lot of benefits from this tier system. So we set our players into tiers, and these tiers in tier 1, if your son's in tier 1, they're going to be playing all A games, and those A games will normally be the second game played. The tier 2 players, they will be players that play B games and then sit A. And then the tier 3 players are players that we actually split in half, and so they play just 1 game a week instead of 2. And the benefit we found in this is that it creates more playing time for them by us splitting. We've got a lot of players going out this year. We've got 21 8th graders and 27 7th graders, and that's a lot of bodies. And so if we can create a tier 3 to where your son might be playing just 1 game a week but playing more minutes, this is beneficial for you coming and watching them. It's beneficial for grandma and grandpa coming to watch and driving away. This ensures that your son is not getting in for just a few minutes here and there. It's ensuring that they're going to get a decent amount of playing time in a B game. So there are opportunities for players to work up the tiers. We typically see tier 3 guys that'll bump up into tier 2. It's a little less likely, but we'll see tier 2 guys hop up into tier 1 occasionally. We also have some down movement sometimes, and mainly things that cause downward movement in the tiers would be things like grades, or having missing assignments, or doing things that are not appropriate in school, so causing problems for teachers. That can bump you down the tier as well. So know that there are ways to work up and work down the tiers. And so each week when I send out my weekly emails, I will be sure to include what tier your son is in and communicate what games they're playing in. That tier 3 group especially will make sure too that you're getting an equal opportunity if your son falls in that tier to experience home games and away games. And I think that concludes everything I've got on tiers. So if you've got any questions about anything that I've said covering the handbook, please reach out to me. I'm here for you and willing to answer any questions. We do have, like I stated in my email I sent out tonight, January 6th is going to be another parent opportunity for you to come in and ask questions or share concerns about anything that you've had come up so far in the season. So I'm sorry that this is coming out in electronic form, but thank you so much for watching, and I'm excited for this season. It's going to be a good one. So go Mustangs, and looking forward to meeting you and chatting with you all some more. So thanks.